S23 FE, the most probably blah phone of 2023. So this phone is basically a 2-year-old blast from the past in 2023 that I feel like Samsung really just wanted to go out and attack the mid-tier phone pricing range. $599 they want for this phone, and I don't think it's worth $599. But I think we're going to be in a similar situation with this phone as we were with the S21 FE that came out beginning of last year. And my whole thought process was it wasn't a bad phone, but the timing and the price just made no sense. They wanted too much money for the S21 FE. I think they want too much money for the S23 FE. If this were a $499 phone, it would be hard not to recommend it because you still get 4 years of operating system updates, 5 years of security patches, 50 megapixel camera. You got 3 cameras on the back. You got the primary, the telephoto, the ultra wide. You got a decent selfie camera, and it's got a nice 6.4-inch screen. It's got 120 hertz refresh rate. It's decently bright. Maximum nits is like, I think, 1400, 1450. You've got wireless charging, wired charging, which albeit are quite on the slow side. And it's got about a 4500 milliamp battery, which for a phone this size with this body, like it's not the thinnest and it's not the slimmest, and it doesn't have the smallest bezels around it. I think with the room they have in here, they should have put a 5000 milliamp battery because that Snapdragon 8 Generation 1, as much as they went in there and they put some extra stuff to try and deal with the heat. And that was the thing with this phone. I was really, really disappointed when I heard that it has a Snapdragon 8 Generation 1. It's got the Exynos 2200 internationally, if I remember correctly. But the Snapdragon 8 Generation 1, a brief lesson in history, was not a good chip. It was the flagship chip that came out the beginning of last year. So it's almost 2 years old. Actually, it came out 2 years ago, but it was first introduced in Samsung with the S22 series phones. It was okay. Power-wise, it was good for everything it needed to do, and it still is. I think that there's still a lot of power. I think it's still got like basically a good-sized V8 engine, but it just gets bad gas mileage, right? It doesn't have good battery life, and it had serious heat problems, and they just couldn't manage the heat. And what that did was cause them to basically cheat and use their game optimization service to throttle the phone so badly that it was running like a 3-year-old, basically mid-tier phone. It was running a lot of apps slower than the Snapdragon 765, but it was just like super powerful Snapdragon 8 Generation 1. How could that be? And Samsung, because of getting caught for that, had 3 or 4 years of their phones delisted from Geekbench, who are people who go out and like test this stuff and tell us what the numbers are, how good they are, and things like that. So yeah, I have problems with that fundamentally. But when you take a look at the chipset, not necessarily overall bad, but OnePlus had problems with this, other phones had problems with this, and towards the end of the year, after they got it tweaked and optimized and they really throttled it in a lot of ways, it kind of helped out, but it still couldn't manage the heat well enough. So they put some extra, I think it's a vapor chamber or thermals on here. I can't remember exactly what it is, but they put extra stuff. I think it's got like the largest heat sink or something that helps out with the heat. And you can feel it. It doesn't really get all that hot doing most things, but it doesn't fix the battery life issues. So if you're a heavy phone user, I don't think this phone will really last all day long to last you into the evening time. And that's been my experience with this phone. That's been my experience with any Snapdragon 8 Generation phone, 8 Generation 1. All of them. The OnePlus 10 last year, the S22 series. I did not recommend the S22 at all. The regular S22, because it didn't even have a 4000 milliamp battery. That sucker would be dead in like 3.5 hours. It was terrible. And the S22 Plus really wasn't much better. I would get about 4.5 hours out of it. So if you're a super heavy phone user, you're still not going to get great battery life out of this. For somebody who's kind of a casual user, and maybe that's the difference here. I think that people buying a $1,000 phone, a $1,200 phone, when you look at the S22 Plus, the S22 Ultra, probably more power users than people shopping in the $600 budget price range. So maybe it'll be an okay experience for you. And here's my thing. Once this phone hits $499 or $450, because inevitably this phone will go on sale, and that was the whole thing with the S21 FE. It started off too high, and then within 3 or 4 weeks, it was $150, $200 off. If they do that, then yeah, I would say go buy it. Don't buy it at $599. Try and find a deal on it if you really, really want one. And I think it's a better phone than the A54. I am not an A54 fan. I was not an A53 fan. I just really felt like the Exynos chip in there, underpowered, not optimized well. It would have a lot of stuttering when you would try and do stuff, even though at 120 hertz refresh rate. Just, I don't recommend those phones. If you really want it and you can find it on a good deal, that's fine. There's always kind of like this cost benefit type of decision making process that you need to make. But at $599, I don't recommend anyone buy this phone. And one reason for that is because you can get better phones for that price. As of right now, you can go on Best Buy and you can get the OnePlus 11, which I think is a tremendously better phone, for $549. That's a better deal. Or you could even consider like the Nothing Phone 2, that might be an option. It's got a Snapdragon 8 Plus Generation 1. If this had the Snapdragon 8 Plus Generation 1, I would take it a little bit more seriously because it is a better chip. And it fixed a lot of the heat and battery management issues that the Snapdragon 8 Generation 1 had. And then you could also look at, we've got the Pixel 8. So it's normally $699. It's going to be on sale for $549 once November the 16th gets here. So that instantly, the OnePlus 11, the Pixel 8 make this phone a like complete no-go for me. I wouldn't buy it. So if Samsung comes around and they drop the price of this for $449, then we're talking. Because a Snapdragon 8 Generation 1, 4 years of operating system updates, 5 years security patches, and then you've got wireless charging, you've got wired charging on here that's okay. It's not the fastest in the world. You got a okay size battery. There's a lot of, it's just okay. But when you take a look at the entire package and the flagship performance that you still get with this phone, and it's going to be supported for many, many years with reliable software updates, One UI, and a pretty decent camera setup on here, yeah, at $450, that's a pretty attractive price point. At $599, I'm like, I just can't really recommend it. So overall, it's an okay phone. Like, I don't think it's a bad phone. I don't think it's a terrible phone. I just question why Samsung made this phone, why they brought it out this time of year right now, other than just, if they don't drop this price for Black Friday, it makes no sense. Straight up, if they don't drop the price on this, if I understand that if they can get somebody to pay $599, they're like, yes, we tricked somebody. we got somebody to do it. But whenever you see it at $449 or $499, it's kind of in the conversation point of, okay, it's good enough at that point that it makes a good deal. It's not right. It's not there at $599. So if they don't secretly drop this for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, holiday shopping season, because then it'll make a really competitive phone. Could you imagine this at $449 and then you're like, okay, OnePlus 11, it is a better phone, but $549, like $100 matters, especially when you get to these price points and kind of the picking and choosing of what you get with certain phones. Once you get down to the $400, $500, $600 price range, $100 or $150 less really makes the phone much more compelling. And again, this is not a bad phone. I don't want to say it's a bad phone. I just don't understand why Samsung made it, and then I don't understand why it's $599. But I could say the same thing about the Pixel 7a. I thought it was ridiculous that it was $499. If you got it on sale last week when it was $379, that's a pretty decent deal. So I feel like companies like Samsung, you see even Google and others do this, when they come out with it, it's like, okay, this is our price because we don't want it to be too low because then we can't really lower it that much for sales. But if you take this at $599 and if we find this on sale in the next couple of weeks, maybe it might be a good conversation to have and really consider it at that point. So that's kind of my feelings about this phone. Again, it is a good phone. It's not a bad phone. It's got a nice screen, 120 hertz refresh rate. It's a little, I wish it were a little thinner. I wish that, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the design. It feels like a big bloated A54. It doesn't feel as sleek as the S22 or the S23 was. It's even heavier than the S22 Plus was by about, I think it was like 15 grams or something. But anyway, it's not an overly heavy phone. It's just, I don't know. It just seems like they didn't spend very much money trying to make this more slim. Anyway, so that's all I got. That's like my wrap-up thought process on this phone. If you can get it on a deal, consider it. At $599, don't buy it, and just see what happens with the holiday pricing and stuff, because there are going to be some really good deals. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions or comments, please go to the comment section. I'll do my best to get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, if you found this helpful, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.